So good morning to all the participants. Sujay has set the scene properly in terms of the risk and the threats that's surrounding this issue of DLP and data protection. What I thought I'll try and briefly cover is really, what the real challenges are related to this issue and what are the possible strategies that I think one could adopt in trying to resolve this. So without further ado, let me just go on to the next important point which I wanted to cover, which is I just stumbled upon a survey which was recently conducted on DLP. Now, this was a survey for all the members of Information Security Forum, and this happened last week. So it's very, very current feedback from the industry of global practitioners. And what's surprising here is that while there are a lot of organizations who have started to adopt DLP as a solution, there are only few organizations who are really seeing the benefits of an implementation of DLP. And what really tells us is that although it's an area which is important and needs to be resolved, it's still fairly new as a technology and as a approach, in terms of the maturity of how organizations are adopting these solutions in the industry. So in the heart of this is the data protection issue. And when you talk about information or data, in my mind, I look at information in two aspects. One, which is the structured information, which is really where, you have all the information stored in applications where, it is structured and properly organized in tables and records. And we apply traditional information security management approaches in terms of having a right strategy to protect the information using the normal CIA model. And, we've been fairly successful in, maturing over a period of last 15 to 20 years in terms of how we have been able to manage the right strategy for protecting this information when it comes to structured information. But what has happened is that while, we have this structured data and while we've been working on it, there has been an exponential growth in the unstructured data. And what I mean by unstructured data is information which is, created, managed, transmitted and destroyed by the end users using their own PCs, whether it's their hard disk, whether it's their handheld devices, and various other factors apart from the information which is stored by applications. And what we can see is that we have now more and more of such information being created. And if you do the math, and I did it, for the bank as well, and what you would find is that 70% of the information or usable storage area available for the users is in an unstructured format, as compared to the 30% which is there in the structured information. So this is a huge paradigm which has been created because of the increase in the number of the computing power of the PCs, as well as the explosion in terms of the number of handheld devices which are available now where information is stored. So what are the challenges which are there because of this skew of storage which is available now for end users? And one of the things which is clear is that the traditional model of information security management and the solutions and tools that we had in terms of identity management, in terms of access control, and so on and so forth, are inadequate to address this issue. Primarily because this is a dynamic data. It is highly dynamic compared to what has been used by the applications. It is actually the end users are empowered to create and use it the way they want it, and you don't really have a control on how that information is used. So while this challenge is clearly there, as far as the solutions to address this are fairly new, as I just explained in the recent survey which was conducted, where the evolution of the digital rights management solutions and the data loss prevention solutions are fairly new, and organizations are adopting it, and that's also largely been a challenge. Apart from that, again, in a traditional model, while you look at the perimeter security, the network security, and the access control, large part of the control of enforcement and usage was in the hands of the information security group. and so they could enforce it, and we had a lot of control in terms of making sure that it gets implemented. But when it comes to a solution such as a DRM or a DLP, there is a huge dependency on the business participation in making sure that the solutions are complete. And I'll explain to you why that challenge is very important to address. And largely, as I mentioned, there is a huge, exponential growth in terms of the unstructured data, and so, that's been a big challenge which we need to address. So, having looked at the challenges, what are the possible solutions that we could look at when you look at a holistic, strategic approach towards data protection? So, I have actually tried to put it in these 4 factors, and it's not important that you start with one, but essentially discovery is very important. It is a starting point, but then the other 3 elements are really things that you need to do parallelly to start protecting your information. So it starts with discovery, protection, prevention, and monitoring. Let's cover each of those one at a time. So when you talk about discovery, you need to understand, you need to have a complete understanding of what are the business requirements and what are the compliance requirements. And what I found very interesting was that when it is very easy for us to assume as information security practitioners what could be the possible problems that business may have. But when it comes to data protection, it's very important and vital that you actually go and park yourself with the business and ask them what their real requirements are. And the other interesting fact that I've realized is that a lot of times business users believe that the problems they have do not have an information security solution. And so they tend to live with that problem, and then they continue with that problem believing that, this is how it is going to be and this is how I have to live with it, and they found a compensating control or a weak compensating control to, address that issue. So it's very important as information security professionals to go and engage with the business and explain to them the possibilities that exist now in terms of tools and solutions and processes that are available to address this issue, but also important that for you to understand what the real business problem definition is. So that is one aspect. The other aspect is in terms of looking at the compliance requirement, and when you look at the PCI DSS requirements, which are very, very prescriptive in terms of what you can share and what you need to protect and what you need to encrypt. So that's another important issue that is very important for you to understand. So that's a start. Having done that, the next part is in terms of getting more deeper into it in terms of what is confidential. And obviously I talked about the traditional structured data approach is the CIA model, whereas if you look at really the data protection, we tend to largely focus on the C part, the confidential aspect of it. So you need to understand what is confidential and which is the information that you want to protect. The third aspect is in terms of discovering the complete life cycle of the information exchange, right from the time it is created till the time it is destroyed, and what are the different channels and different ways in which you need to how the information is shared. Now, as a bank, we share a lot of information with our outsourced vendors in terms of making sure that there is statement printing and various other things. So you need to make sure that you understand what information is going and how it is protected end to end. So there can be one channel of exchange. Similarly, there are different business partners who do collections for you. You do call outs and you do cross selling. So you need to make sure that all these information, when it's going out, what is going out, to whom it is going out, and in what form it is going out. And that's very important for you to then make a collective assessment of what is it that I want to protect and where are the areas which are the most important aspects from a business process point of view. And lastly, once all this thing is done, on an ongoing basis to make it work, you need to identify the right people within the business who can make an ongoing decision on compliance and non-compliance. Because there is limit to which you can depend on technology to make those calls, and there are certain things where you need to have a business knowledge which keeps on changing, especially when we have large complex organizations. You need to have an empowered, distributed infrastructure in place in terms of people to be able to take those decisions. So once you have discovered and once you have assessed all these aspects of how your information and data needs to be protected, then you come out with the right policies of acceptable use and then start enforcing those policies using the other three aspects, which is the prevention, protection and monitoring.